So Jim, I thought, here we are at Deep Ellum Live. We're the big DVD shooters tonight.
Yeah, Deep Ellum
And I
Live.
thought that maybe we would take a little walk around the neighborhood. And
right.
you could sort of tell people watching the DVD, where it all kind of started.
Yeah.
We sort of met each other down here a long time ago.
Well, way back in the 20s and 30s, Deep Ellum was a real hot spot for nightclub activity for the black community, and all the big bands and, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and even before that, Robert Johnson and Blind Lemon Jefferson, they all played down in this area. It was in the early 70s. I was asking my grandfather when we came to visit him, and I lived in Corpus Christi, and I said, I want to see Deep Ellum. I gotta see, and he's going, you want to see Deep Ellum? Why? So he took me down to Elm Street. That was really where this is the Deep Ellum district, but Deep Ellum was really Elm Street. And I remember going down there in the 70s, and it was a trip. By then it was all burnt out old bars and pawn shops and all that. Well, that kind of eventually faded out, and it became an industrial type district where you'd have businesses like Texas Refrigeration and
Butcher Supply. I remember that very well.
That's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But then Russell Hobbs opened up a place down there. We'll show you in a second. It was called Theater Gallery.
Yeah, I remember that. You used to live there.
Right. That was the first nightclub to come back in here, except for maybe now Adair's has been there for a long time.
Yeah, it's like a country and western sort of
country and western burger joint, bar and grill type place.
Yeah.
But the first kind of alternative nightlife bar or club was Theater Gallery, and it really wasn't like a club as much.
Let's go down there and check it out. Yeah.
Okay, let's go check it out.
But yeah, it was kind of like a scene as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because for one thing, it wasn't really. I don't think Russell had his liquor license, so they didn't really do liquor a lot, but they would do private parties some. And I got divorced and didn't have a place to live, so I ended up moving in here, and
this is it. It doesn't look. I mean, I would hardly even recognize it.
Yeah, it's not the same now anymore, but it used to be called Theater Gallery, and it was really the only place down here, and it was really the beginning of the whole melding of the art and music and theater scene all in one little place right here. And there wasn't really much going on, and one of the interesting things about it too is that before, and you might want to ask Russell, and what I remember, and I don't know if this is exactly true, but the people from ASCAP and BMI were coming in saying, oh, you're playing music, so you have to pay us money.
Right.
And so his answer to them was, well, all the bands that play here play original music. And before that, in Dallas,
it was like all cover bands.
Right. You had to play all cover songs, or you didn't play. You didn't. Right. There was no place for original bands. There was a place called the Twilight Room, which was up the other side of the freeway down there, and we played there too. And that was before Theater Gallery. So Russell was kind of getting set up with this neighborhood, which there really wasn't anything over here. But I kind of feel like I was at least a part of, because I was setting up the PA. Jeff Lyles would book the gigs, and Russell Hobbs was, he owned the place to coordinate the shows, and but I kind of feel like if we hadn't have been there, Dallas may still just be cover bands.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And I lived up in this loft that they called the heat-seeking missile, because it got to be about 110 degrees up there. And it was so uncomfortable and so hot that I'd have to sleep with fans. And they did have a shower in the back, so what I'd do is I'd go get in the shower, cold water because it was so hot, and I would walk. So I was still wet, and I'd go walk and climb up into my bed and turn the fan on, and I had some ice there I'd put on my head.
It's like a poor man's air conditioning system.
Right. And there was no ventilation, and there were rats and roaches this big. It was really crazy, but they used to laugh that they thought it was funny that I was living up there. They called it the heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
And that mixed with my last name is Heath, I think that's kind of where the heat kind of came in, but I was working here, and I had bands, and I was trying to get him to give me a gig, and he was always, Well, I don't know if that's the kind of music we want, but then one day he heard me playing and singing, and then I did a gig with this band called the Beat Orgy, and he heard me, and he said, I'm gonna give you a gig. He goes, but I'm opening up a new place, and I want you to be the first guy. And so I was either the first or second act to play at this place, the Profit Bar, which is over there across the street.
Yep. Yeah.
But I guess we should walk over there and let's go look at the Profit Bar now.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it was called the Profit Bar, and I think it's because he wanted to actually make a profit, but it was also, he spelled it Prophet, like prophecy.
Yeah, no,
Profit Bar. So he opened this place up, and he told me, he said, be there Thursday night. And so I, a week from Thursday or something like that. So I was, grateful that I had a gig, and I showed up, and it was just doing a solo thing, and I was setting up my amp and getting my guitars out. My guitar, I think I just had one, but anyway, getting it all out and before the gig, and he came and he said, Horton, your stage name is going to be Reverend Horton Heat. And I said, that's stupid, I mean, I didn't want to do it was too sticky, and for one thing, I didn't want to compare myself to Reverend Gary Davis, because he's unbelievable and one of my heroes. And I didn't want to try to rip off somebody that was that great or something, but I didn't even know what was going on, and he had listed it in the papers, and I figured there wasn't going to be anybody there. Well, there was actually 50 or 75 people, and after my first set, they're coming up saying, Reverend, that was great, and I'm going, everybody started calling me Reverend, and I was thinking, what? And then I'd noticed the flyers, and then I looked and saw it was listed in the paper, and there were people there that liked it, and I mean, I was so flattered that I'd had to run with it. I was so poor living up there and just no money at all, and he could have said, hey, your stage name is, crap on the ground.
Right.
And I would have been up there, hi, thanks a lot, I'm crap on the ground. I mean, I was desperate, so I was grateful to have the gig, and it was really a cool thing, because eventually, he was paying me off the percentage of the door, and eventually I was starting to get more and more people, so where there'd be 100 people at the shows, and I would play every Thursday night.
I remember.
And so then eventually I got this following thing going, and I started bringing in some pretty good money, and I was thinking, damn, I could hire some musicians to come play with me,
because it was all solo before, which
right. And so I got in touch with this guy Jack Barton, who was in some rockabilly type bands here in Dallas.
I remember Jack, Slappin' Jack or Smilin' Jack.
He had a bunch of nicknames. Yeah, right. And so me and Jack, and then a drummer, Peter Kaplan, we started playing, and we had an accordion guy, Tim Alexander, would come and play accordion with us, and.
Now that's one thing I remember, because I remember those Thursday nights, and every Thursday night it seemed like more people came. And the other funny thing I remember is that everyone was there the first Thursday night, was there the next Thursday night, plus their friends. And they were going crazy. And people were swing dancing, slam dancing, any kind of dancing. It was fun, man. I mean, it was like the funnest night in town. And, and right here, and it was a trip.
Oh yeah,
it was a good time.
Yeah, I was obviously really grateful to Russell for setting me up with all that. And but another thing that was kind of cool is that I don't think Russell liked too much, but all of a sudden they started opening up new clubs, Club Dada and Club Clearview and things. And they would all, when they opened up, they'd all come to me, want me to play. And so all of a sudden, I had 3 or 4 steady gigs just within this little 4-block area I could play. And so,
all right. Hey, let's go over here, man.
Okay. I guess we have to explain who this guy is. His name is Carty Talkington. And I've known Carty since, I guess we just figured out he was a junior in high school. And then he was a big Reverend Horton Heat fan from the very beginning. He used to actually come see me play in a band I was in called the Polytones before Reverend Horton Heat. Then what's kind of important to Reverend Horton Heat and our fans is that Carty made the movie Love in a 45. He wrote, directed, produced it, got the whole thing together, and it was a really fun thing for us to do, and that was years later.
And you guys were in it, obviously,
we
in
were-
the
we were-
infamous strip bar scene.
We were in the strip bar scene. That was great because you had all these. He hired these strippers because it was a strip bar scene, and there was these girls dancing around while they were filming, and we're up there on the stage, and these girls were like, they'd look at us in between takes and. Does my hair look all right? And I'd be going, oh, your hair. Oh, that looks great. Yeah, you know.
It's true. Hey, let's go see Russell Hobbs.
All right, let's
the
go.
man we've been talking
Go
about.
see the door.
So here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, this is. I was talking about Russell Hobbs because he, gave me the name in my first gig, the Reverend Horton Heat gig, and this is his new place, or newer than his latest thing, the Door. And I guess it'd be really good. We can't go any further unless we go talk to Russell himself and find out what he has to say about this whole thing that he helped me start. So let's go inside. We're going in the door.
In the door of the door. All right, well, now here we are at the door with the proprietor, Russell Hobbs, who I think you've all heard a bit about in our tour around Deep Ellum. And we thought we'd come here and get the straight story from Russell. First question I'm going to ask, just out of curiosity, is the rumor is true that you actually named Jim's band and sort of.
Well, the way I remember it, okay, is that Jim was great. He was in Deep Ellum way back in the beginning, living here. I mean, to me, I respect people that lived in the scene and really gave up the whole, Ritzy North Dallas scene for the art scene of creating Deep Ellum, and he was there and sacrificing, and he was actually doing sound sometimes, and he was going through a thing with his wife. Remember, you and your wife were in a band called the Polytones, and then y'all were splitting up. And man, he wrote these songs. We just sitting out in the backyard at the Prophet Bar, hanging out, smoking, if you got them.
Yeah.
And he'd say, man, listen to this new song. And it was like that one, where in the hell did you go with my toothbrush? I'm not going to sing, I'm just going to say the words,
Yeah.
But I love that song. I still love it. Anyway, he started playing just solo. And so what happened then was remember the Beat Orgy? We opened up with the Chili Peppers.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And we had the drummer, the New Bohemians, and Shallow Rain, and Three on a Hill, and Jeff Lyles, and Jim, and all these people were in this big band. And that night I saw him singing Folsom Prison Blues up there, and he had just started doing this solo stuff, and his nose was kind of bumping on the microphone. And I don't know why, I just thought Horton, it just hit me like that. And Horton Foote was shooting this movie in
Waxahachie.
So the name Horton was probably in my head. You know what I mean? So I remember saying, man, Horton Heat and everything. Now then, he started playing Monday nights at the Prophet Bar, and then he got the bass player, Jack, and the drummer, and they started packing the Prophet Bar on Monday nights. It was the coolest thing. People
it was Monday nights. I was thinking it was Thursdays. It was Monday nights. That's right, every Monday, yeah.
But everybody was dancing. I mean, it was a scene. It was very real, authentic. It was gutsy. It was artsy. It was really cool. Then this guy, Elvis from Hell, was this guy, Tom Battle's little brother.
John Battles. Mm-hmm.
And he made a flyer when you were going to play with Screamin' Jay Hawkins. We flew Screamin' Jay in, and your band was going to play with him. And he put the Reverend on there. So I didn't think of the Reverend part. But this Horton Heat was my thing, and then Battle's little brother comes up with Reverend Horton Heat, so it just became a phenomenon, And then I remember sitting in the backyard. This is like we sat in the backyard before, we sat in the backyard after, and all the way in between, we'd sit in the backyard hanging out. And Jim's like, hey, man, I'm a reverend playing at the Prophet. You know what I mean? Because the club is called the Prophet Bar.
What were some of your impressions of Jim, like back then? Because you guys were together. He was living there. You were doing your thing. We've talked all about your thing, by the way.
Yeah, we were friends before he became the big rock star. I mean, he was doing sound at the theater gallery with his dog on a leash at the soundboard and had earplugs in his smoking his ears, standing there doing these,
In the dog's ears, he had earplugs.
And here he was. Check this out. Here's this guy. Now everybody knows what the talent he's got of songwriting, concepts, guitar playing, all this stuff that's in his artistry. But he's standing there doing sound for all these 18-year-old suburban little wannabe rock bands. Yeah. That must have been tough.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of, because a lot of them, were so built up, and they, and now it helps me now because I really appreciate these guys that do sound and work crew because, when I was doing that, people would, treat me like I was, lower than the caterer, And so, but I mean, that was good for me because I got to be part of something that was way cool. I mean, I didn't always do sound for. Sometimes you just rent part of my PA and I'd help get things, but you did some great shows. The Replacements, remember that? And the Chili Peppers and Husker Du.
Yeah, we had a lot of good shows.
Flaming
I remember your PA sat in the theater gallery a long time.
Yeah.
We probably didn't even pay you for that, did we?
Oh no, you
Yes, we
paid
did.
me.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, you paid me something like $100 a week.
The
It
thing
was
is,
great.
the scene back then, it's like all these people came together and there was this vibe that we weren't really doing it to make it in the music business. We weren't doing it for money. We sure as hell weren't doing it to impress record companies. We were doing it because it was something really cool.
Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah, no, I know.
And what happened was the synergy in that became something that spit out Reverend Horton Heat and the New Bohemians and other things. And it's you can't quite describe how that happens, but we were living for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Well, it was one thing that was cool about Theater Gallery is that it was a melding of all these different people, and so you would have a play in the afternoon,
Right.
And then I'd have to set up real quick for a rock band that night, and so there was this big, I'd be having to deal with these people who might be doing some kind of crazy fashion show or some
Or plays.
play.
There was lots of plays going on,
and
yeah.
these guys would be, kind of pissy, run around going, no, you can't do that there, move that. I'm going, hell, I'm not going to move that. And
Don't touch my poodle.
Right, and everything, and so, but it kind of forced everybody to kind of appreciate each other more, and I mean, the cool thing about me too is it kind of opened my eyes to the whole art world, like not just theater and music, of course, but art, paintings, and things like that, because you had so many great, unknown back then. Some of them are really well known now, but artists and it was all kind of together, and
that was a cool time, and it spit out a lot of cool stuff, like you were saying.
well, like the Door.
Yeah, like the Door, exactly.
This place reminds me a lot of Theater Gallery.
Yeah, it
It
does.
is much like it, isn't it?
And I think we got to get back over to the stage to get ready for this big show tonight. Actually,
Okay. Big show tonight.
Yeah, the big show.
All right.
But I'm really glad.
I'm going to be coming out doing a number with Horton.
Well, you
tonight.
should. And thanks for letting us come by and
You're
talk
very
and stuff.
welcome.
It was really,
It's good to see you, Cardi.
good to see you too,
Thanks,
man.
man.
It's
Yeah,
good to see
thanks,
you, too.
Russell. I owe you a lot, man. I really do appreciate it, man. Thanks.
No, you don't owe me nothing.